with us via telephone, all the way from his car somewhere. Yossi Green, composer extraordinaire. You there, Yossi?
How are you? Yossi, wow. From the car somewhere. Isn't that great that you can do these kind of interviews from the car these days?
It's great, but if not for the dinging of your car door being open...
Well, the dinging is over, you know.
Dinging is over.
As you can hear, the dinging is just a memory at this point.
Yossi, brand new album, Leil Shishi. Talk to us about Leil Shishi, Yossi.
So, Leil Shishi is the fifth in a series of Shades of Green albums that Baruch Hashem, that I'm fortunate to be able to do over the last, I think it's already 15 years that we started.
Really?
Yeah, because if you remember, in 2002, I was hired to do my first concert myself with, at the time, a guy called Norman Gilden, with, I think it was the Jewish Hospice was the name of the organization at the time, and it was in Alice Tully Hall. And when I asked Norman Gilden at the time, I said, what made you decide to hire me to do a concert at this stage of my life? I've been around for so many years. Baruch Hashem, he says, well, I never knew that you made I never heard of you. I just heard of you now because you did Shades of Green. So that's why I didn't know that you do anything in music beforehand.
That was his answer.
That was his answer. So that's why I know that all those years that I know exactly when that happened. So I know that because one of the things that we did, we had on that concert, we had a group of guys. If you remember, I think one of them was Gershon Veroba, one of them was Dov Levine. We had four guys, and they were called the Shades, and they were wearing these black shades. You know, these big shades that you used to get when a person used to go for cataract surgery. They would get these big black shades.
Yes.
And those are the shades.
They go over your glasses, right?
They go over your glasses, exactly.
So they were wearing these shades. Is there any video footage of this available so we can see this?
In those days, you know, it's so funny, you know, you always talk about video footage.
Yeah.
This was pretty much before the time of video footage. Video footage it wasn't video footage, it was cameras and huge schlep and all kinds of, also if you remember at the time in Lincoln Center is a very expensive venue, and the only way that any of these organizations were able to afford these venues, they would have very tight contracts regarding what they would not do. They would not make a live recording. They would definitely not do a video. All of these things, if you wanted to do them, you had to pay a lot of extra money for that, and that would make it completely inaccessible.
So you had this concert, and you realized at that time that people didn't know much about Yossi Green the music fans knew your music, but the average person on the street did not know what Yossi Green gave to the Jewish music.
Right, exactly. They had no idea that I had anything to do with music at the time, which is interesting, but that's the way it was. Did I ever tell you what the reason why I started doing Shades of Green? Did I ever tell you the reason? Well, it was actually a pretty interesting story for us. One of my daughters, her name is Miri. She was 12 at the time. Can I know her today? She's a mother of family and so on. They live in North Woodmere. Anyway, her name is Stern, Miri Stern today. But she came home. She was about 12 years old, and she came home that night. She was very upset one night. I don't remember which grade she was in. She was about 12 years old, and she says to me, Dad, what do you do? I told my friends that you write songs, and they didn't agree with me. They said, what does that mean? If David HaMelech writes the lyrics and Mordechai ben David or Daddy sings the song,
what does your father
do? What does your father do? Yeah. So I realized at the time that, you know, it's not clear, you know. Today, after I can tell you that after Shades of Green, I believe that I have a tremendous chelik in the fact that the public today knows everything. They know who does covers. They know who does the arrangements. They know who did the song, who composed it, who was going to compose it, who wound up not composing. They know who did it. Was it done in parts? How much did they pay for it? I mean, everybody is so aware today of all the different aspects of our music business. In those days, it was all a big mystery.
Right.
So I said to myself at the time, in Kach, if this is the way that my own children don't even understand what this is, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take back the songs and I'm going to call it on the name of our family. So obviously, if I'm doing it, then the question now becomes, so wait a second. If David HaMelech does the lyric and Yossi Green sings the song, what does Daddy do?
Well, Daddy brings it to the masses at the time, I would guess.
Yeah. But you understand what I'm saying. Of course, it's very clear what Daddy did. It's very clear, but it was very important to be able to understand that part as well. So
you embarked on what's now a 5-album series called Shades of Green.
Right, yes. So the first album was called, though I didn't name it Timeless, because at the time the Chiddush was of the name was Shades of Green. I couldn't introduce two names of a product at the same time, so it was called Shades of Green, but it really meant timeless. It stand for like the timelessness of some of those songs. If you remember, there were 24 songs in 12 sets of 2. Each set had a different style, shades of light jazz, shades of, I remember at the time the word light jazz was so problematic that Izzy Taubenfeld, Oliver Sholem Sadik, who was the owner of Sameach at the time, said to me that one of the stores in Borough Park balked at taking in the album because it said shades of light jazz. What does that mean? Of course, people thought at that time that jazz was like a roundabout word for everything that was modern in music. Of course, as the years went by, you realize jazz is just another form. It's another style of music, like classical music.
Yeah, it's an arrangement
and
style.
As a matter of fact, jazz is considered America's gift of classical music to the world was jazz, by the way, as opposed to the Europeans that gave the world classical music. Right. We gave the world jazz.
Right.
So from there we went, and that did Bli Ayin Hara did incredibly well. That was like at that time everybody loved music even more than singing. I mean, it was the play. Sometimes you go to a wedding today and you see there's 2 singers, there's choirs, there are, and I remember I used to play trumpet for Nagina, and at the time when, I don't know who came up with the idea to have a singer at the time who was an independent singer who stood in a band in front of a mic without a musical instrument. I remember that the client would scream that you're ripping us off. You think I don't know what you're doing? Instead of sending us another blower on the instrument, what you're doing is you're sending me just a singer. It's hard to imagine that in those years, like there was a guy called Gary Bodinger who played the piano, and he sang. He got paid an extra $30 a night for singing. Everybody began doing it with an instrument.
Right.
But when, in fact, people would stand without an instrument, where it became unheard of. You go to a wedding today, and if there's not a singer standing in front of the band, you don't understand. So where's the singer? Something is wrong here. As a matter of fact, they have one-man bands where they have one singer and a musician because it got to the point where the singer is so important and so influential that he drives the wedding.
Yep.
And a singer with one keyboard can create an entire wedding. So, but in those days it was all about music. So when I sat with Yisrael Lamb, we decided that we came up on a formula. It would be 2/3 music, 1/3 vocals. Mm-hmm. And then the second album came along, which was called Hipsh at the time because it was hip, and because the word Hipsh is a Yiddish word which stands for larger than life, and because HIPSH has got an H in the beginning and an H in the end, it had a nice look to it.
Right.
And we called it Hipsh. We continued the same format, 24 songs in 12 sets of 2, with each set presented in a different style. And this time already, I met with Yisrael Lamb at the time, and we decided we'll do 50% singing and 50% music.
And that's also where you had a guest vocalist on 1 or 2 tracks. It wasn't just all Yossi Green.
No, there was not. No, on Hipsh I had I had a bonus track.
2 tracks. You had 2 tracks. You had the Hatzolah track.
There was a bonus track for Hatzolah at the time. It was called Always on Call.
Right, and then you had the track with A.K.A. Pella featured on it.
No, but A.K.A. Pella was not considered singing. It was called Shades of Acapella.
Right. Okay. So
they were being treated. So they were being treated like they were a style of music called acapella.
Right.
They did a bang-up job.
Right.
Wow.
But it wasn't until after the second album that you started to collaborate with artists.
Yeah. So the third album, which was I came up with the name Hartzig at the time. Mm-hmm. We decided because a lot of people were telling me that the first 2 albums were very, very driven. They were very. It was mostly out of 12 tracks, 8 of them were based on fast rhythmic music, and the other 4 were based on gentle, more laid-back music. And they were telling me, look, the Yoshi had a very successful series called Project Relax,
right,
and it was doing very well. And at the time, we kind of collaborated. Yoshi and I collaborated on Hartzik because at that time he was producing all of Shlomi Daskal's albums, and we sat down and we had this. We decided to do a partnership in doing an album with 20 songs of mine sung by Shlomi Daskal, and then it became a 50-50 collaboration. And the second one was, and then the fourth one was called Zaren Kite, which I did with Shragi Gestetner, who has since gone on to bigger and better things. He's in business, he's doing very well in other things, and he had this beautiful voice, and we did a 50-50 collaboration. That did very well, and then the following was supposed to be Lechtigkeit. That That was the working title. And then one day, Shlomo Simcha and I were sitting, he was going to be the collaborationist for our new album, and it was, we looked at each other and we said, well, Shlomo Simcha, Yosef Yitzchak, that's got the two shins and two yuds. Wait a second, maybe Yossis Alayich, and then suddenly I said, what Yossis? Shishi. Leil Chishi. We said, what a beautiful idea to call the album Leil Chishi. And as I wrote in the text on the album over there, I wrote that Leil Chishi represents people who are Bacharim, who are giving from themselves more than they're required, because Leil Chishi is optional. You know, I mean, yeshiva, you have to attend the Siddur. To be up the whole Thursday night before Shabbos and to learn many hours, that's already an optional. So I wrote, we want to be associated with those members of Klal Yisrael who are always giving more of themselves than requested. So that's why we decided to call the album Leil Shishi.
I think it's a great name. I think it's a great album. Tell me, Yossi, this is the first time I believe you're working with new arranger / producer Donnie Gross. What was your experience like with Donnie?
Okay, so Donnie Gross is a phenomenon. Okay, so for me, I don't say it lightly because I've gone through I'm in the business since 1973, so I have a little experience. So every once in a while, Klal Yisrael is blessed with a gem, that the Rebbeinu Shalom gives us a musical gem that can move our music forward. You know, people get older, and so you always want to know that there is somebody on deck that could move Jewish music forward. And Donnie B'li is a rare. He is a what they call a triple storm.
Triple threat.
A triple threat. Anyway, so he's a perfect storm. He is somebody who, first of all, he is, most importantly, people think arrangements are most important, but most importantly, he is a vocal producer par excellence. That means that what makes an album, a Jewish album, great is its vocal producer. Because, you know, a lot of guys are great singers, but going into the studio and taking what you have inside you and putting it down on what used to be called tape, and is today on digitals, to put it down, you have to have somebody who's manning the controls and who's listening carefully and pushes you and guides you and inspires you to be able to present the song in its best form possible. And that is what's called a vocal producer. I only became cognizant of that. Shia Mendelowitz used to be, he was the first one of its kind. The one that I got involved with was in the eighth note, was Yossi Tibert, who was amazing. And he kind of got very busy doing with his own business, and it was not, he's not as available as he used to be. And along came Donnie. Now, that's number one. So Donnie is an amazing vocal producer. Now, beyond, you have to be a vocalist to really appreciate somebody like Donnie. Then came the arranger part. That's / arranger. Arranger is somebody who understands how to present a song in a way that will be palatable to the public, in a very beautiful way that doesn't take away from the song and definitely doesn't take away from the singer. So Donnie is that arranger. And / then comes the what's called the post-production. Post-production is something that, these are what I'm describing what used to be three different people.
Right.
Post-production is mixing, editing, all of those different things, because sometimes the album, all that the musicians and the vocalists do is they give you what's called data. And then it's really in the editing and in the mixing is where the data is formatted into the beautiful piece of artwork that's finally presented to the public. So you're talking about starting with vocal production, arrangements, mixing, and sadly about a year and a half ago we lost we lost a very, very chashuv yid. The person's name is Larry Gates, who was the mixer. Not many people know how to mix. So of course there's Eli Lashinsky, who is amazing, but how much time can one person devote to all the albums? So there always was Larry Gates. As a matter of fact, the one who did the mixing on my Yiddish Nachas albums is Larry.
Really?
And Larry sadly passed away. Oliver Shalom. He was a real chashuv person. If you want to know why, I can dwell on that separately.
I've met him a few times, and he always was a real mensch. And he literally and he worked with everybody. I mean, you're talking about the Hasidish of the Hasidish and the modern of the modern. Everybody worked with Larry, and he was equally good with everybody.
Larry, it's not just that he was equally good. Larry, I'll tell you, since you want to know, I'll tell you, I was by Shia this past week, and we discussed it, and when I verbalized it, Shia, he looked at me and he remembered, he says, wow, Yossi, you hit it on the head. Larry was a guy that that if you walked into the, people are, well, there's a lot of people in the studio all the time. People are, sometimes there's a Lashon Hara here. He said, he did that, he does. As soon as somebody would mention somebody else's name, not in a negative way, or you would tell him a story about this guy or that person or whatever, his whole body would tense up. He wouldn't say anything to you. He wouldn't say, hey, stop talking about other people. He just became intensely uncomfortable. He began to look down at the mixing board until the person who did the speaking got the sense, you know something? I'm just making this person very, very uncomfortable. So I began to notice this, and then I noticed it again. I began to suspect this, that he is a person who his neshama does not bear Lashon Hara. Can't deal it, can't take it,
Wow.
And it got to the point that every time that people were around him, if I saw somebody start saying, I would whisper in the guy's ear, say, quick, I'm telling you right now, don't say anything in front of Larry, because Larry is going to feel very bad, and it's mamish, he's a tzaddik in this respect. Don't put him through where he has to hear something that he doesn't want to hear. And to this day, I'm still saying that this was a tzaddik, because in Banudim Lachavayra, it is so big, and it's so easy not to be a tzaddik. And for a person who has developed himself to such a point that he cannot tolerate when he hears somebody else talking about somebody else, you know that you're dealing with a tzaddik. Anyway, Larry passed away, sadly.
So
all of a sudden we had
find somebody to do post-production, correct?
Yeah, so we had this huge gap. Over that, so from now on, we'd all have to wait for Lishinsky. It's not bad, but the problem is Lishinsky has a certain amount of time. So he said, I will do the mixing. And mixing is a very give and take. Mixing, it goes back and forth between the artist and then the vocals and the music. And Kanai mix A, mix B, mix C, mix D, turning them out one after the other. And then you're talking about a young man who sits and learns. He has to learn every day. You can only go to him at a certain amount, and you can only record at a certain hour, because the other times, which is incredible. And musical and funny and a sense of humor, and he's not afraid to say whatever he has to say. I mean, he's working with a couple of very chashuv people now, and they tell me, Yossi, if Donnie has something that he doesn't like, he tells me, which is great.
So Donnie was doing all three jobs.
Donnie did all three jobs, yes.
Now,
as a matter of fact, I feel bad. I'm done with him now, and I'm like casting around for another project quickly because I want to go back to record with him.
Amazing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason that you used Donnie in the first place, and the reason you went to Shlomo Simcha's in the first place, is you heard Shlomo Simcha's album, which Donnie produced and arranged, and you were marveled at Shlomo Simcha's vocals maybe 20 years after you've worked with him.
Absolutely. Shlomo has, if you want to talk about Shlomo Simcha, my opinion of Shlomo Simcha singing, Shlomo Simcha came out after the Adarabba album, I did with Avremel.
Right.
And I want to tell you, Shlomo was, at that time in the world, there were three singers. There were two singers.
Avram Fried and Mordechai
There was Matcha and Avremel. Right. Shlomo was the third singer. Literally. To me, he was a person, I'm not even saying that he was number three. I'm saying he was one of three great interpreters of Jewish music. You know, by me, it's not the voice, it's the understanding and the interpretation of the message in the song. Both musical and the text. And Shlomo had, as a matter of fact, Shlomo would, many of the songs that I wrote, I also became very close to him as friend-wise. And he would come over, he would be in from Toronto for a job, he would come over to the house, and whenever he came over, I would go to the piano, and I would always wind up writing songs, because he was sitting next to me. He was so inspiring to me, you know?
And those songs went on to be
many of them, no, they didn't. Most of the songs, they never went on. A lot of the songs, they wound up being on other people's albums.
I
became very, very famous songs.
So he's responsible for a lot of your material then, technically.
Yes, he is very, very inspiring. As a matter of fact, now he's looking forward to sitting down with him again. I want to sit next to me by the piano. It's very important when I write that I have somebody that I'm sitting next to that I'm writing for. Even though he may not be the person that eventually puts it out, you understand? But while I'm writing it for him. That makes, I can't write for me. I have to write for someone. I have to feel like a pass-through, otherwise it doesn't work.
I think that what I like the most about this album and most of the albums that you put out in general is how the songs are coming from a spanning of major years. You know, first Seder, you have Kayol Tarek, which goes back to Avram Fried, early career, and then you have Mayim Rabin from Yiddish Nachas, you know, and now Mayim Rabin is stuck in my head as a choir song, and now I'm hearing it for the first time as a star vocalist is singing it, and I'm blown away by it yet again.
Yeah, so people have with choices. You know, Bli Ayin Hara, there's a good side nice pool to choose songs from, and we need to choose 20 songs. So what I generally do is I put together a list of about 50, 60 songs that I believe that you can choose from, and then I give it to the singer to choose 20 songs. I do not get involved in the choosing because obviously I have certain of my own nagias of what I feel wasn't done so well the first time around, and that I would like it to be redone, or was done a little differently than I would have liked it. I would have liked it to be, so I don't get involved. I tell the singer, you choose the 20 songs that you feel you are mostly connected to, and that you will deliver it the best way you can. So they presented me, Shlomo Simcha and Dani presented me with a list of songs that they would use. And then I accepted, and then we arranged them into 5 sets of 4, which is a whole big parsha, and how we come up with that. And that, and then we name the set. In this case, since it's Leil Shishi, and Leil Shishi we're talking about the yeshiva, the Sidorim in yeshiva, so the first, it's called first Seder, second Seder, third, fourth, and fifth Seder.
Yossi, were there any of the songs on this album that weren't previously released on albums, meaning they were released as a single?
Yes. So what I wanted to do, since I love the way Shlomi sings, I wrote him a song called Ribono Shel Olam Ten Li Bracha. It's a tchina that I found after davening, which I thought was it's a person finishes davening. He says V'habatech b'Hashem Chesed Yisai V'Veni, and Ten Li Bracha V'Atzlacha B'Chol Ma'aseh Yodai. You understand? So I wrote this original song for him, and I felt I would like to do it like a bonus track on the album, and use it as use a piece of it, use a cycle of it in one of the medleys. So this is what I did for the first time. I think we're going to do this from now on, and we decided the Russian would help that every once in a while, every 3-4 months, whatever, we would get together and I would write him a song, and we would do it, we would release it as a single, because we love this idea very much, and he's worth writing for. Also, if you notice that the background vocals on this album are very different, because he has such a beautiful, edel voice, so I was prompted to, when I did my vocals, I did it I did it in a very background way, very soft, very, somebody once made a joke that there's such a thing called support vocals and such a thing called background vocals. Some people need support and some people just need a little background.
Right. And people know Yossi.
Shlomi needs a little background.
And people know Shlomo Simcha has a big voice, but they don't realize he can do really, really soft stuff as well.
He's the sweetest, gentle. When he came into the business with the Machnisa Rachmim and that special melody and the main Kein Hashem, and what is the way he sang that song. Very inspiring.
Yossi Green with us via telephone. We're talking about his brand new album, Leil Shishi, available now in stores through Nigun Music, available online, nigunmusic.com. It's a Shades of Green album, produced by Donnie Gross, a Donnie Gross production, featuring Shlomo Simcha and Yossi Green. And from what Yossi tells us is that he's looking forward to doing something more with Shlomo Simcha in the near future. And all I can say is that we're big fans of the album. We can't wait to it. The album's divided up by 5 Sidorim, 5 sets of songs, and the songs are 4 songs. The songs are literally from anybody you've ever heard of. From Fried, I believe there's a lot of Shlomi Cohen in the album. There's also Yiddish Nachas. It spans easily 30 years, ladies and gentlemen. Yossi, another thing that my listeners are asking me is about the brand new Sefer/book Manginat Chayai. When is it going to be available in the United States?
It arrived at Bigel Eisen on 16th Avenue today. This morning. Now,
this book is written, I believe, entirely in Ivrit, right?
Yes, it's over the last 3 years. It's a book that was written in Ivrit because, first of all, the subject lends itself to Lashon Kodesh as much as possible. So it is, there's a lot of Torah, there's a lot of in Jewish history, in musical history, and personal stories, events that took place over the last 30 years in this business, my relationship with the different singers. It's a very positive book, Baruch Hashem. There's everything B'li Ayin Hara I can tell you is true, and it's interesting. It took 3 years to write. I was writing for an Israeli newspaper. That's when I kind of formalized my Hebrew writing, which to me is such. It was the last 10 years that I've been working on mastering that. Mastering the language, which is Lashon Kodesh is Lashon Kodesh, which was available until 100 years ago, but for cut and paste, you don't have a word in Lashon Kodesh. So there's a development of the language, and So you're able to describe the deepest emotions, the most intellectual ideas. There's nothing like Lashon Kodesh. Nothing like it. It almost to the point that the people ask me about translating it back into English. It's almost like the beauty of it is because it's in that language.
So, does that mean it's not going to be translated into English at any time?
No, that's not what it means. I have to tell you, it depends on the sales of the book in Hebrew. I can tell you, Bli Ayin Hara, that I spoke to Achim Gitler, who is the worldwide distributor from Bnei Barak. He told me, Bli Ayin Hara, that he sold more books in the first week more Sfarim than he sold in years of a first fighter. So Baruch Hashem, I was very heartened by that.
I mean, we've seen pictures on your social media of everybody reading it. How are the people in the music industry who've bought the book or have gotten it from you? I mean, what is their response? Are they learning anything about Yossi Green that they didn't already know?
Absolutely. There was a beautiful, there seems to be I'm not sure if it's a website in Israel, it's called Geula.fm.
It is a website, yeah.
And they wrote a critique on the book this morning, and I'm saying to myself, okay, here goes. Here starts the critics, and I'm reading the critique, and I have tears in my eyes at this guy who read the Sefer, and then he wrote his critique about it. He got it. He really got the Sefer. He understood it. And I was so encouraged.
Yochanan Bleich is his name.
Yeah, that's his name. It's funny, my editor's name is Hanani Bleich Bard, who he shortened his name to Hanani Bleich, which also comes from Yochanan, by the way.
Yeah.
But there's no relations.
No relation. So listeners, Zalman wants to know if you have any idea when the Sefer is going to reach Monsey, or if it's only going to be available in Borough Park for now.
Well, I'll tell you what, the distributor. It all depends on the way the Sefer is moving. The distributor, this is a new thing for me. I know how CDs move.
Right.
This is it's a new thing for me. That if they'll be interested in it in Monsey, there'll be plenty of it. I think Monsey would be a great place for it because there's probably a lot of Hebrew-speaking people there too, and so on. I definitely intend to make sure that it gets to all of the stores. Today in the mornings there was the first shipment that Achim Gitler shipped it to Big Lies, and so I have to see what the ethics. How does it work? How does the book Sefer distribution? How does that work? So that's a new. That's a new thing for me.
I'm sure in Borough Park they have a lot of Yiddish Sefarim and Yiddish books going out, but a Hebrew is going to be something of a new one for them. Let's say.
Right.
So Yossi,
I can tell you that I've been contacted by a very, very chashuv, Hasidish, a Yiddish writer who read the book, and he said he wants to be the one to translate it into Yiddish.
Amazing.
And it's interesting to me. Yiddish. I almost feel that Yiddish is a preferred. It's preferred over English in terms of a translation, because the ideas will lend themselves better to Yiddish than to English. No. But we'll see. We'll see where this goes. Look, I'm very excited. This is a brand new. When you write, I spent a few years, 3 years. I mean, every Motzei Shabbos, I sat down Motzei Shabbos and the whole Sunday and Monday late afternoon, evening, to write this and to rewrite it. And so, Baruch Hashem, when the bunch of them help is mezaka you, and the book comes out and it's printed and you can hold it in your hand and other people can see it. It's a give shevach v'aydu that I was able to even have this chus to be able to write and to be able to see it actually in the store. When they called me from Big Lies and today in the morning, they said the eagle has landed. The Sefer is here and it's in my store. I was like overwhelmed. I ran to my wife. I said, imagine the book, the Sefer is in the store. So it's it's a great feeling. Wonderful feeling.
I'm wondering if this is as exciting as the first time you had a song that you sold or recorded.
No, but I'll tell you why not. Because the first time I did a song, which was with Yigal Salek, Kol Barama.
You were too young?
The whole concert, I was too young. I was so b'diavad. I didn't know what a concert was. I remember I went to the first concert, and then Yigal was excited, and he said, Yossi, we're going to do it at London School with Nagina Orchestra and Yisrael Lamb, and it's going to be in Brooklyn College. I had no idea. What is Brooklyn College? I came from Williamsburg,
Right.
And you have to come, and you'll see a concert. What's a concert? You'll see people on stage. They're singing, they're dancing. Until I didn't see it with my own eyes. I had no idea what he was talking about. Now, I remember I came in, and the lights went down, and Yigal came out, introduced the song, Kol Barama, and the kids started singing, humming and singing, and doing, it was like a skit that they acted out of Rachel crying for Klal Yisrael. And I remember I was sitting in my chair, in one of the seats in the middle. I was alone. I didn't go with anybody. I didn't know anybody at the time to go with, and I literally floated above my chair, I remember. And I was wondering, amazing. I had no clue that the song somehow will translate to being performed. I don't know if I'm explaining myself clearly.
No, I think
I didn't understand what it meant to write it. I didn't understand what it meant that other people would sing it, and I really didn't understand what it meant that people would perform it or arrange it. I remember we were talking about arrangements before. The first time I met Yisrael Lamb is when Yigal Salek took me to the first rehearsal of the Nagina Orchestra before the concert. And I remember I saw those young, bright, brilliant Tarvadas guys, Yossi Leshkowitz, Yisrael Lamb, his brother Michal Lamb, Sid Stadler, Moti Parnas, Oliver Shalom, and they got together and he counted off and they played the introduction, and I heard the song, I heard the arrangement. I didn't hear the song, I heard just what was around the song, and there's nobody singing it because they were just reading the notes.
Right.
And I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I felt somehow very connected to this arrangement because I felt that it was, and then suddenly I realized, I asked Yisrael, how does this relate to the song? So Yisrael says, I'll tell you when. And when I finish the count, start singing Kol Barama Nishma, and you'll see. And I started singing Kol Barama Nishma together with the guys in the rehearsal to myself. I didn't sing it out loud. I sang it to myself, and I literally broke down.
Wow.
I understood for the first time what it means when you have a song and it's arranged and you have a bunch of professional musicians that are playing the arrangement. Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yossi Green with us via telephone talking about his latest album, Leil Shishi, and of course his new book / Sefer, Menginat Chayai, that's now available in Beagle Eisen in Borough Park, soon to be traveling across the globe. Yossi, before we let you go, what's next? I mean, I know you're working on I believe, a Shabbos album, and I know you're working on Yiddish Nachas too, so why don't you tell us some Yossi Green?
No. Okay, so first of all, I'm working on Yiddish Nachas 3. Baruch Hashem, Yiddish Nachas 2 is in the bag.
Right.
Baruch Hashem, these are my Yiddish Nachas. If you want to talk about Yiddish Nachas for a minute, Yiddish Nachas is, B'li Ayin Hara, one of the most successful projects that I've ever done in my life, B'li Ayin Hara, and I'm very, very proud of it, and I'm in the middle of the third. I have my partner is Moshe Kraus. He does the live presentations,
right.
the live Yiddish Nachas live, and I do Yiddish Nachas recorded, and it is very, very, very exciting. I mean, that's where the songs B'li Ayin Hara came out. There's Kapsi and Maim Rabim, and that's where the songs are coming out from originally right now.
Right.
And I'm in the middle of this third album. I'm a little late because I should have been much further than I am, but we had a little, we were exchanging songs. We wanted to have the perfect songs. We wanted to have the perfect arrangements. This time we split it up between Avtuna Moshe and another brilliant young arranger in Israel. His name is Yehuda Galili. Very, very exciting young man to work with. And we're in the middle of series productions. This past Sunday, I finished my vocals for the first song on the album. See, first the kids do their vocals and then I do mine, or sometimes I do mine first and they follow with theirs.
Right.
So that's very exciting. And I'm dreaming of possibly Hanukkah.
Maybe Hanukkah's a good time.
Hanukkah's a great time.
A Lechtigkeit.
Lechtigkeit, exactly.
And the other project, I believe, was supposed to be Shabbos songs.
Yeah, right? The other project is it's not Shabbos, it's Nusach Green. It began, I don't know if we have time, but what happened was I had a very fascinating story. I was once in Israel, and it was on a Wednesday, and I had come the Wednesday before, and I have an understanding with my wife and my family. Not more than one Shabbos at a time away from home. So, and it's Wednesday, and I'm opening up a newspaper in the morning. I'm having breakfast in Israel, and I see the very strange thing. I see that there's a guy called Avrami Roth, who I'd known him a little bit. I didn't know who he was. With a choir, is doing a Shabbos in the Leonardo Hotel. You know, the Leonardo owns the Plaza Yerushalayim, but Leonardo also has a hotel in Beersheba.
Right.
Leonardo, Beersheba, Shabbat, Nusach Green.
I remember this.
I'm like, what?
We discussed this a few years back, right?
What in blazes? What is this? You know, and I'm looking, I said, what do you mean Nusach Green? What are you talking about? So I got Avrami Roth's number, and I call up Avrami Roth, and he says to me, he says, you're here in Israel? And I said, yes, I'm in Israel. I'm going home tonight. No, you're not going home. You cannot go home tonight. You must stay for Shabbat. I said, what are you talking about? He tells me that they have created the Shabbat. Somebody rented out a hotel, sold 200 rooms, and the idea was that the Shabbos will be based around the songs that Baruch Hashem, they were written by me. I said, what do you mean they're based around the songs? He said, they started from L'china Rananu all the way to Adon Olam with all the Zemiris, and the next day until Shalashidus, every single piece of music of song that's being presented is being presented that comes out of my songbook.
Wow.
So I said, I don't understand. Don't worry, we have a big choir that's been trained and that we rehearsed and we practiced. I said, you're kidding me. You have to stay, but I have this understanding with my wife. So I go ahead and I call my wife and I say, what do we do? You know, it's like, is there any way that we can just for now? And she says, you know what, why don't you stay for the Shabbos? Let's see what happens. So I show up to this hotel on Friday afternoon. I'm coming there with my suitcase. I have no idea where I'm going. And I see the parking lot is getting fuller and fuller, and there's cars, people are showing up with all kinds of Yidden from all over Israel, all kinds of Dati Leumi Yidden who are coming, who I don't know them, I don't even know how they even know who I am. And we get in, and what began was a Shabbos. I was just sitting there. I asked, what am I supposed to do? They said, just sit back and enjoy. I got to tell you, from the moment we started L'china Rananu, forget about it. So, of course, by Zemiris at night, they had a center table, and, of course, I helped out with the Zemiris, and then I spoke a little bit about Jewish music and so on. But based on that, I went ahead and I did an album with Avrami. I said, Avrami, I was so excited. I want to do an album with you, and I wrote him a Moshe Vaharon because there was a famous Moshe Vaharon that Shlomo Simcha had from Kalbach that Chia gave him so that he should do.
Right.
So, and he wanted, and he was struggling with the Moshe Vaharon part, trying to find something of my songs that would fit. So I said, how about if I write you an original Moshe Vaharon as a present for giving me the Shabbos? And so he came up with the idea to do an entire album based on a brand new nusach.
Interesting.
With existing songs and new songs called Nusach Green.
And Avrami's going to be singing it.
Avrami's a singer, and Shrulik Hershtik with a real big professional cantorial choir is backing him up.
Wow.
And we wrote, I think, there's 17 songs, and a lot of original Mizman LeDavid, L'Chudoidi, Eloisei Voishi, Mikolis Mayim, Rabbi Madirim, and Adon Olam, Shir Loizam, wherever they needed, they had a gap that they needed, that they wanted something original, they would call me Yossi, and they needed an original song for this particular part.
Wow.
And it's being mixed already, and it's being mastered. I'm waiting already.
So just to clarify, Yossi, the Zadie Berish stuff is Zadie Berish's songs. They will not be on this album. This is strictly Yossi Green.
No, nothing to do. No, Zadie Berish is a separate. Those are not my songs. Those are the songs of the Heligan.
Just confirming.
I don't want to talk about too much stuff here because it's going to confuse everybody. But I'm almost done with the Vishva project as well.
We're very excited.
As a matter of fact, the final song, in the Vishva project, there are 10 songs, and every song has a guest solo. The guest solo on the final song is Yiddish Nachas.
Wow, very, very interesting. Very interesting. So Yossi, I want to wish you first of all Tzlacha Rabba, both on the album and on the Sefer. I mean, the album I'm enjoying, so that I'm getting something out of. The Sefer, I'll meet up with you in the next couple of days. We'll try to get a copy.
Absolutely.
And before we let you go, we have to mention the Yossi Green radio app where Leil Shishi debuted.
Exactly. That was so well. I got such feedback. Unbelievable. Yes, so to let everybody know, Yossi Zweig helped me, and he actually produced an app for me called Yossi Green Radio, which runs 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, just the songs that I recorded. There are, there are many duplicate different people recorded the same song, so there are about 1,000 songs that are where the computer randomly selects the next song, and you can hear it 24 hours a day. Also, it has a video. It has all my videos are there on the video part of it, and there are news.
That's right.
There are news, and there are podcasts, and there is social media access.
The Mila is that every week or two, Yossi and me we're updating the music with new either covers that bands are doing or new albums like Shulm Lemmer. As soon as Shulm Lemmer's album was out, the Yossi Green composition off that album was automatically added to his stream. So any Yossi
Absolutely.
Green
And as time goes on, we're going to start doing some special, like Friday. I would even love to do a list of songs that are not written by me, that songs that I love, which I would like to to have like an hour before Shabbos or something like that, where people are just having it, listening to it in the background as they're going around preparing for Shabbos and so on. So these are all ideas that are on the drawing board, Metz Hashem, that will be, first thing we wanted to do was we wanted to get it out. It's available on Android and iPhone. The Android, B'li Ayin Hara, Baruch Hashem, is already working flawlessly. The iPhone is still a little bit, we still have a bug here and there, but it's getting better every day.
Yeah.
And Yossi Zweig did it for me.
Yeah, but anytime I get a chance to work with Yossi Green, I'm happy.
Thank you.
Yossi, have a ksivich sivatayva good gebench sure.
Have a good gebench sure. Lyle Shishi, that's where it's